All right. Sorry about that. All right, I think we're back. Nature of the Beast. Definitely quite a difference having two episodes here. Definitely not complaining, but definitely different. Won't have this hiccup the remaining weeks for sure because it's just going to be one episode every day. Sorry about that again. I apologize for having to end that, but it is what it is. So, yeah, definitely getting back into it. So yeah, this will definitely, hopefully, no more interruptions. Sorry about that. Again, I apologize to everyone for having to end the stream. Yeah, I definitely agree, Jason. These episodes were absolutely very crazy good. Definitely agree. Unbelievable. Again, this show just fails to disappoint. I definitely think I saw that they had like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes or something. These first two episodes definitely well deserved for sure. I mean, just unbelievable. So yeah, so like I was saying in my previous video, this the second episode really blended into the first one very unceremoniously. Kind of was surprised about that. Definitely thought there'd be more of a formal ending here, but it almost was one long episode. I don't know if that was the point of this, but it definitely was cool to see in hindsight. Definitely wasn't expecting that. So anyway, yeah, I guess I'll get into it here. The second episode of season 6 of Better Call Saul, Carrot and Stick. All right. So just drawing up the notes here. So yeah, so still can't get over how amazing that episode 1 opening was. Really got me emotional. Yeah, I mean, yeah, unbelievable. Definitely got you in the feels for sure. Just definitely kind of, I definitely didn't have a chance to talk about that. Maybe I'll get a chance to in some of my videos that are more kind of in-depth videos over the course of this week about these first two episodes. But yeah, definitely thinking about everything that Saul had to leave behind in that house was really something for sure. Definitely really was, like, everything he left behind, that unbelievable house, just all those possessions, all those memories he had to leave behind. It was definitely something for sure. So yeah, it definitely it was emotional. I definitely agree. Yeah, I agree, Jason. Something we'd never seen. And definitely, like I said in my last video, was not expecting that at all. Was not expecting, was not expecting that amazing Venetian style home. In hindsight, maybe I should have anticipated it. Maybe I should have known that. It's crazy too because again, I could talk about this for I feel forever. But going back to that first episode, telling telling Jimmy, aka Saul, about embracing the Saul Goodman persona, which he hasn't done yet. I mean, it's crazy to think that in the second episode of season 6 of Better Call Saul, Saul Goodman is driving a brown Ford Taurus. We still haven't seen that white Cadillac. And in hindsight, that scene that was teased in the trailer for season 6 of Better Call Saul was actually his car getting impounded by, the repo company following him, clearly fleeing to Omaha. So again, it's crazy to think that, through the first two episodes, he hasn't embraced the Saul Goodman persona, but he definitely will. He absolutely will. I think that was probably the point of the opening scene here, where despite the fact he hasn't gone full Saul Goodman, he will. He will go full Saul Goodman and some. But anyway, yeah. So let's get into the second episode of season 6 of Better Call Saul here. So anyway, the cold opening scene of this episode, which I didn't even realize was the cold opening scene for a second, but it basically picks up at none other than Ignacio Varga's house, where we see the two women who he lives with just sort of just going about their days. They seem kind of bored, not really sure what's going on here. They were just kind of, the one clearly sort of tweaker woman was, playing with dominoes. Again, I wasn't really sure what that meant when they sort of teased that image of dominoes for the second episode of season 6 of Better Call Saul, but in hindsight, now we know that this is what it was a call to. So anyway, following them, just sort of, going about their business, clearly just waiting for Nacho to come home. I'm sure it's not, yeah, definitely, definitely drugged up for sure. I'm sure this was pretty common for them. I'm sure Nacho went away on business, many times, and they were home, alone at this house for quite a while. Maybe this was a little bit longer than usual, but definitely pretty interesting to see. Then they're sort of just, lounging around, is then very unceremoniously interrupted by Victor no, excuse me, not Victor, Tyrus, Mike, and Nick, the henchman Nick, who we've definitely seen before. I made a video about him when he reprised his role in season 4 of Better Call Saul. But anyway, again, without getting bogged down in the details of the scene, this was just a great scene too. I even thought the acting of these two characters, these two women that live with Nacho, I thought it was just spot on of these women just basically saying how they like it here and they didn't want to leave. But of course, Mike saying, you have to leave, you have to go far away from here and never come back. Definitely telling them that if they don't leave on their own accord, it's not going to go well for them, which is definitely foreshadowed by, the fact that Juan Bolsa and his men are showing up there to sort of go through Nacho's belongings, of course, after, of course, Mike, sort of, sets up the scene the way it's supposed to, which is the premise of this cold opening scene here. So anyway, we see in this cold opening scene here, we see them break into Nacho Varga's safe. And initially, I was wondering why they were doing this. I was wondering if they were going to take all the possessions, if they were going to take the money. But then, then it was then revealed to us that the reason they were doing this is because they wanted to put something very specific in this safe. They put an envelope in this safe. And definitely it was pretty interesting too, where following Mike looking at the two IDs, I was wondering if he was going to take them out maybe, but he definitely left them in there as well. Again, kind of an interesting thing to see for sure here. I thought maybe he would take them out, but no, he kept them in there. And I definitely noticed someone say that, again, with the why Gus set him up. Again, the point is here, they want to make it look as though no one opened the safe before, because, of course, if they crack it open like that and people see, oh, this was clearly tampered with, so they get an exact replica of that safe. They take out all the possessions, put it in there, of course, with the additional note that they also put in the safe as well. So that is the premise of the scene here. They want, the next person, of course, not revealed to us at this time, whoever finds that safe to also find this note as well. So again, that was the premise here of the cold opening scene of the second episode, of season 6 of Better Call Saul. Again, I wasn't even sure that it was a cold opening scene because there was no, title back sequence after that. So like I said, this episode really blended into the other. I was trying to pay attention to like where the acts began and ended, but this one really, I was just immersed in watching this episode. I was really I almost lost track of where the scenes began and ended. So it was pretty crazy. So yeah, again, excuse me for the interruptions, just sort of reading my notes here after just watching this episode. So yeah, so following this, the first act, scene 1, then picks up with Jimmy McGill at his apartment with Kim Wexler. Again, he's sort of doing a sort of clearly acting sort of preparation here. It kind of reminds me of that scene a little bit where he interacts with Huel Babineau at that perspective office, where he's sort of talking to the camera and you first don't really know what's going on, but then it's revealed to us that oh yeah, before I get on, I think you're right. I think Ben, I think you're right that Mike did I think he might have pocketed Nacho's dad's fake ID. I think that's correct. I think we only saw Nacho's ID when Juan Bolsa got there. I think that was, did he do that, or I'm not sure. I have to go back and watch that. I only watched it once, but I definitely noticed he may have pocketed one of the ideas. I wasn't really sure. That's a good point, because he definitely saw Juan Bolsa look at Nacho's ID, but I don't remember him seeing Papa Varga's ID as well. So Manuel Varga. So then following this, the first scene of action picks up with Jimmy and Kim. Again, they're sort of rehearsing the sort of their scheme against Howard Hamlin. And again, without getting bogged down in describing the specific details, like the very specific things that happen in this scene, it's revealed to us basically that they're trying to figure out how they can sort of try to bring up Howard Hamlin's alleged cocaine abuse in front of Clifford Maine, just under the guise of him sort of taking a case where, again, it's kind of confusing, where he'll, see the clients and they can talk about, how something revolving around Howard Hamlin's cocaine abuse, but of course nothing where Cliff would actually take the case, just so he could, hear another prospective client, talk about it. And it's then revealed to us following them, trying to figure out what would be the best course of action here. It's then revealed to us that Kim has the best opportunity for, Clifford Maine to hear prospective clients talk about Howard Hamlin. And of course she says to Jimmy, "But you're not going to like it." Again, this was definitely sort of spoiled in the credits. It's true of this first episode of season 6 of Better Call Saul. Again, after reading that, I definitely noticed the one actor who plays Mrs. Kettleman. Her last name is Emery. I definitely noticed that name flash across the guest star screen. So I definitely knew the Kettlemans were going to be in this first or second episode for sure. Again, I think it was pretty obvious too from everything I read and all the reviews that came out prior to the release of the first two episodes to the public. Again, just going over my notes here. All right, so following this, the second scene in Act 1 then picks up back in the trailer at Gus Fring's Los Hermanos chicken factory. We see Tyrus displaying to Gus all of the information that the federales have in respect to Lalo's death. Again, it's even revealed to us in this scene that the ace kicker of it being clear that Lalo actually died is the dental records. And again, I'm no physicist here or pathologist or forensic detective or whatever, but I'm not sure how you fake dental records. How Lalo was able to find a corpse char that had his records matched. So that's pretty much the what's displayed to us here in this scene. Then following this, Gus receives a phone call. Again, I wasn't really, again, in hindsight, I forgot who this phone call was from. Again, if someone again, I just watched it. Where did, it's definitely interrupted here again. I don't want to play the too much of the audio here. But yeah, so again, this is then followed by Gus Fring getting a phone call. Again, I forgot who this phone call was from. Yeah, trying to figure out here. Or does Gus make the phone call again? I'm kind of confused here. Oh, I feel like I have to rewatch this scene real quick. But anyway, yeah, definitely. We'll get into that. I'll come back to that for sure if anyone can remind me. That's definitely slipping my mind here. With I know that he shows him the evidence here, but I forget what happens after that. But anyway, getting back into it, the next scene in this episode then picks up with Jimmy and Kim. About the Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. That was a really good point. Dottie X. Yeah, I definitely remember they talked about the dental work for sure. You definitely think he was talking about a kid. That's a really good point there. Definitely remember they were talking about dental work. So definitely think all shall be revealed. Definitely over the course of this season. That's a really good callback, man. Following this sort of instant reaction here. Again, I apologize. Just going over my notes here. So yeah, then following the scene in the trailer between Gus and Tyrus, we then finally get to see the big payoff here with it being revealed to us that Jimmy and Kim are going to use the Kettlemans to enact their scam against Howard Hamlin. Again, a pretty sort of complex plot that ensues here, both without getting bogged down in very, very specific details. Again, this is sort of a long con ruse that the Jimmy and Kim try to enact with the Kettlemans here. Again, this is just an unbelievable scene here. I absolutely love seeing these characters reprised. I mean, even when Mrs. Kettleman first saw Jimmy, and she just totally wanted absolutely nothing to do with him. But of course, when Mr. Kettleman comes in, it's almost as he just let bygones be bygones here. It was just unbelievable, how he just is a total contradiction to his wife, just sort of wanting to make small talk. Oh, good to see you, great scene here for sure. Definitely exemplifying these personalities. Again, it appears here that I'm not exactly sure what they do for a business here. It's definitely something to do with taxes or something along those lines. Again, something of sort of a tax refund place or something to that effect. I'm no accountant, so I'm not exactly sure what they're doing here, but it's of course eventually revealed to us that this is of course another scam of them. I mean, it's like, I guess once a criminal, always a criminal in this sense. But so anyway, again, this is without getting bogged down in the very, very specific plot details here. It's revealed to us that this is all part of a ruse for Saul to get the Kettlemans to go see Clifford, Maine about a sort of case in respect to their legal compensation due to them because they were allegedly falsely or represented under, again, not the highest level of legal representation. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not sure about all these technical terms and everything like that. But basically, Saul sort of brings up that back when they were represented in respect to the embezzlements, when they were represented by HHM, he insinuates that Howard Hamlin was under the influence of cocaine, and therefore they didn't have proper legal representation, and therefore they can get their sort of conviction overturned, and they can have, they can be civilly and monetarily reimbursed civilly. So again, pretty amazing scene here for sure. Again, it's hard to do it justice. Again, I definitely can't just do it justice describing the interaction between these two characters in this scene with Saul Goodman. Just unbelievable exemplification of their personalities. And definitely another thing I definitely noticed here that is really kind of crazy to think about is if we go back to the plot of Breaking Bad, we now know that this 30-foot tall Statue of Liberty came from the Kettlemans all along. Again, it's pretty amazing to think about. Again, we don't know exactly how it's going to end up on the roof of Saul Goodman's office. Maybe it'll be sort of a parting gift or something along those lines, or he'll just take it or buy it. Who knows? But it's amazing to think that that Statue of Liberty came from the Kettlemans. It's really true what Peter Gould said about how these worlds just overlap in ways we haven't seen before. And it's just amazing that all these little plot details that we originally saw in the plot of Breaking Bad now directly relate to storylines in the plot of Better Call Saul. It's definitely amazing for sure. I definitely love that aspect of this plot. It's unbelievable to see that that's where that 30-foot tall Statue of Liberty is going to come from. And now every time I watch Breaking Bad after this, all I'm going to think about is the fact that the Kettlemans are, were sort of had their impact left on that office all along. It's pretty amazing to think. Again, I apologize for the interruptions here, going over my notes. Again, following him sort of, again, the ruse here sort of pays off, again, without getting involved in the very specific sort of complex details of this ruse that are displayed to us on screen, where basically he gets the Kettlemans to go to Clifford, Maine after sort of, subconsciously bringing them up on purpose, trying to tell them about this law firm, and sort of just him almost even knowing that once they sign this piece of paper, it doesn't mean that they have to be legally represented by him. It's not a binding contract, I suppose. Again, don't quote me on this. I'm no lawyer for sure, but that's what's definitely the premise here in this scene. There's a lot of little details here which sort of drive the plot forward that, I can't vouch for completely, like not understanding how the law works and everything. But yeah, that this scene thus ends Act 2, I believe. Again, I told you that this second episode really sort of blended into itself. I really sort of couldn't even keep track of all the acts here for sure. So it definitely cuts to commercial here after the scene where Saul got the Kettlemans to sort of buy into the ruse here. But then following this, we then see Nacho Varga back in his hotel room or motel room, just sort of biding his time, staying out of sight. That's the sort of what he has to do here because, as Tyrus said, everyone is after him. The entire cartel wants him dead. So what basically happens here is that Lalo, when he's, sort of biding his time here, he understands, or he at least sees, it looks like someone is outside spying on him. He thinks that someone is looking at him, but he can't really be sure. It almost looks like he's just sort of a homeless person or a drifter or something along those lines. It's not even really sure who this person is at this time. I thought maybe this is just a homeless person. Maybe Nacho was just kind of paranoid. But of course, it is revealed to us later in this episode that this person was spying on Nacho on apparently the behalf of the cousins. Again, it's a very complicated plot here. Again, we don't know really what's going on here. Again, I remember I just reviewed season 5 of Better Call Saul, but the great thing was I had the benefit of hindsight to sort of understand what was happening retroactively. But of course, when, it's so different to review it right after it airs because there's so many mysteries here. We just really don't know what's going on. There's so many mysteries here with after just seeing these first 2 episodes. So yeah, so basically this scene here where Nacho definitely notices that there may be someone watching him in this motel room. This, of course, foreshadows the big reveal to come in Nacho's, storyline that will happen later in this episode. Of course, then following this, the next scene in Act 3 then picks up at Davison, Maine, where we, of course, see the Kettlemans play right into Jimmy and Kim's hand, where they go to Davison, Maine, and they take this sort of story that Saul Goodman made up, and they try to bring it to Clifford, Maine to say that, everything that Saul said about they didn't have proper legal representation because their lead attorney was under the influence of cocaine the whole time. Of course, Cliff is absolutely taken aback by this, knowing that there's no way that this is true. At least, again, that's sort of the premise here. And again, really great to see the character Aaron reprised as well in season 6 of Better Call Saul, the sort of, employee at Davis and Maine who really kind of was giving Jimmy the business, at least in his perspective. At least it was great to see her character reprise for sure. So anyway, here following, of course, Cliff saying he can't take the case because it would be an enormous conflict of interest because they're partnered together on the Sandpiper Crossing case. He's not going to, go after the lead attorney of his co-counsel for this Sandpiper Crossing class action lawsuit. But of course, at the very end of the scene, again, we sort of see the sort of the thought in Clifford Maine's head. The final scene of this, the final shot of the scene is a shot of Clifford Maine sort of, just thinking again, like sort of thinking was that cocaine in the locker? Was that just a coincidence? This can't all be, just a coincidence. Is Howard Hamlin really a cocaine user? Is he a high functioning cocaine user? I mean, that's sort of the premise here for sure. And that kind of is where this, at least the perspective of, the Clifford Maine and Howard Hamlin sort of storyline basically ends here with this scene here. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what the final payoff is here for sure. Again, definitely don't know what's going to happen. We definitely now know what the plan is to sort of undermine Howard Hamlin as this sort of cocaine user. As they said, nothing that could be, held up in a court of law, but definitely just enough to get, Clifford Maine to sort of have enough reservations where he just wants to settle this case. He doesn't want to deal with Howard Hamlin anymore. In a way that even doesn't really completely destroy Howard, as Kim said. I believe in the first or second episode, again, these two episodes blended together so much, it was hard to keep, again, it was almost like one long 2-hour episode. It was like, I couldn't even believe, like, how are these two episodes? This just seems like one long episode entitled Wine and Roses and Carrot and Stick. So yeah, pretty great to finally see the reveal here for sure. And again, going over my notes, I believe this ends the third act in this episode, or no, I don't. Maybe not. No, I believe no. There's one more scene in this episode, in this act. Excuse me. This is the final scene of Act 3, of course. Yeah, and with hindsight here, but basically following that final scene of Act 3 then picks up at Casa Tranquila, where we see Gus visit Hector, sort of, going about the ruse of saying that, his greatest condolences to, Hector for the death of Lalo. Again, Juan Bolsa is there, of course, buying the premise as well. Of course, again, without getting bogged down in too much of the details here, we see the final payoff here where, Hector shakes, Gus Fring's hand as a sort of, I guess, sign of cordiality, kind of letting bygones be bygones here, civility. Of course, I definitely did see this, I think, maybe on Reddit or Twitter during the commercial break here about did Hector do this on purpose? Did he want Gus to know that, to give it away that Lalo was still alive? Was that the point here? Because it almost seemed too obvious if Hector kind of did this incidentally, if Hector, kind of gave it away by accident. I don't know if that's the point. I definitely think it was intentional here. This is all sort of a long con that he and Lalo were enacting together. So, definitely kind of interesting to see what happens here in this with this, the secondary plot that's happening here with Lalo and Gus and the cartel and Saul Goodman, that we remember is going to have to overlap based on Saul Goodman's infamous dialogue in season 2 of Breaking Bad, which is almost the best part in all of this. How these almost 3 kind of separate stories of Nacho on the run in Mexico and sort of Gus dealing with Lalo and sort of Saul Goodman and Kim, these 3 stories have to come together based on Saul Goodman's dialogue, which is just like the ace kicker of all of this. How these 3 separate stories are going to come together. We know based on the backstory of Breaking Bad. Spoiler alert retroactively to anyone who hasn't seen Breaking Bad. I apologize. I don't know if there's anyone watching right now who's in that boat. But anyway, yeah. So again, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the final scene in Act 3 then kind of reveals to us Gus calling, I believe, Victor. Again, I don't remember exactly, but he basically said that Lalo Salamanca lives. Again, that's the reveal here. He definitely knew by Hector's actions that Lalo was still alive. So again, the big question is, was this intentional? I think it was for sure. I don't think, it would have been just so abundantly sort of casually obvious for Hector to give it away on purpose. So I definitely think it's quite the game of chess that's ensuing right now, for sure, between these 2 characters. Again, looking at my notes here, I believe that was Act 3. So yes, now following this, Act 4, I believe, again, I'm not sure if this is how the writers sort of wanted this to be portrayed, but it's definitely how it's done with, in respect to commercial breaks and things like that. So yeah, this is definitely something that was brought up in the chat. So basically, Following this, the first scene of Act 4 then picks up with Juan Bolsa. It's revealed and his henchmen sort of trying to break open this second safe that was set up by Mike Ehrmantraut on behalf of Gus Fring. Of course, that's another sort of mystery here. Like I talked about, we don't have the benefit of hindsight of having seen this entire season like I did when I reviewed season 5 of Better Call Saul. But we see in here that Gus Fring gave away the motel that Nacho was staying at, apparently. And the question is, why did Gus do this? Did Gus give it away on? He clearly wanted Juan Bolsa to know and wanted the cousins to know where Nacho was, and the question is why. It's as Mike said, it's like it's almost as if maybe he wants Nacho to die again. I'm just speculating here. It's so weird to speculate because I've been talking about season 5 of Better Call Saul retroactively, but now just having to sort of speculate here on what the story is. Maybe like Gus wants Nacho to be dead because as we know later in this episode, again, not getting ahead of myself here again, I apologize for the breaks here as I'm looking over my notes. So following this, the next scene in Act 4 then picks up with Nacho back at the motel just waiting to get his food. Again, sort of very leery of that person who was waiting outside. Again, without getting bogged down in too many specific details, it's revealed to us that Nacho sees that someone's spying on him. Someone is, through the abandoned structure spying on him. Nacho is completely aware. This causes him to just, act out in unbelievable anger, realizing that his position was compromised. He then enacts a pretty brilliant scheme in hindsight where he kicks out the window unit air conditioning, goes out the back and sort of, tricks the guy and runs around and sort of, goes around him and ambushes him from behind, then sort of asking him, who do you work for? The guy basically telling him he doesn't know. He just was told to spy on you. He doesn't know your name. Following this information, Nacho, which is very leery of what's happening right now, he then calls Tyrus and tells him that he senses that something is wrong here. Something's not right. I'm going to make my own way across the border. I'm not going to go about your plan anymore. Of course, Tyrus saying you can't do that. You absolutely cannot do that. Nacho hangs up the phone, mid-conversation, just basically just displaying to us he's going to go his own way here. He's not going to, he knows that if he just stays this course, he's going to get killed. Maybe that's the point too. I'm not really sure. Again, we're just speculating here. Maybe the point is Gus wants him to be killed because, again, it's revealed to us in this scene that following Nacho pistol whipping this guy, as he said, if you shoot a gun here, everyone's going to hear, even in this tiny little town. So, of course, the scene is pretty amazing where he pistol whips him and the scene abruptly ends as well and cuts to black. That was a pretty funny scene for sure. But anyway, following this, again, I believe it cut to commercial here. Again, I apologize for the breaks. I'm going through my notes here. Yes, it did cut to a brief commercial. Again, I'm not sure if this was the intention or if they just have to do this for in respect to television. But then following Nacho exiting the structure or whatever, after he pistol whips him, he tries to sort of hot wire a car. I think that's the term. Don't quote me on this. But then, of course, following this, it's revealed to us that all of a sudden a bunch of men in this SUV, this pickup truck SUV, swarm in on the motel that was clearly, given to Juan Bolsa by Gus Fring. And of course, it's then revealed to us that these assassins or henchmen or whatever are with the cousins. And the payoff scene here is that following the cousins clearly looking for Nacho Varga and Nacho in a firefight ensuing between one of the henchmen, we then see the cousins kill this henchman, of course, to, I guess the surprise of the audience. Vivo, saying we want him alive, sort of almost kind of a callback to, Gus Fring about Hector Salamanca, about how a bullet to the head would be, far too humane. And it almost reminds me of the scene in 1 Minute as well, when Marco had Hank on the ground and he could have shot him in the head. And he said, "Muy fácil, too easy." It had to be a more, dramatic sort of death. On top of this, it's also revealed to us that, again, it's also revealed to us later in this episode that I'm getting ahead of myself here, but yeah, it's definitely revealed to us here that they want the cartel clearly wants Nacho alive. It's revealed to us in the next scene by Mike and Gus talking, I believe, about how that's why the cousins don't want him dead. They clearly want Nacho to sort of confess before they kill him. And so it definitely makes me think that the cousins have definitely conversed with Lalo or maybe with Hector. I'm not really sure. I definitely think they've conversed with someone, because if they definitely just thought that Lalo was dead, maybe they would just kill him. I don't know. Or maybe they talked with Hector and saying they need that proof before they killed Nacho. I'm not really sure. Again, a lot of mysteries here for sure. that we just are not yet, known at this point in time, and that will be slowly revealed to us over the remaining 11 episodes of season 6 of Better Call Saul. So it's going to be pretty amazing to see. Of course, at the very end of this scene, following the sort of quick firefight that ensues, we then see Nacho, of course, able to, hotwire the car and then drive into the cousin's Porsche and then drive away and get away from the scene. So again, it was kind of interesting here where clearly the cousins could have killed Nacho if they wanted to, but they clearly did not want to kill him. They probably think that Lalo is dead. Yeah, again, I don't know. We don't know. They may, or I'm not sure if they're in on the scheme as well, where they want that proof as well, and they've been conversing with Hector and Lalo. I'm not really sure, without the benefit of hindsight. So yeah, pretty amazing scene here for sure, because they were definitely outgunned completely. They could have killed Nacho so easily, but they definitely want him alive. That's the clear, abundant, obvious thing from the final scene of this act, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it wasn't the final scene of this act. No, it was not. It was the first scene of this act. Excuse me. So then, following this, the next scene of this act then picks up back at Jimmy and Kim's apartment. It's then revealed to us that following, Saul and Kim talking, going about their day. Definitely a pretty interesting callback to Judge Papadumian as well, who we actually first heard, I believe, in Breaking Bad in season 5 in the episode entitled Buyout. It's actually kind of that character who has never yet been seen in the plot of Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, but her name has come up very frequently. So again, a pretty interesting callback here. And it definitely makes me think of what characters we're going to see this season. Maybe we'll finally get a Judge Papadumian reveal. It's now or never, or maybe she's going to be akin to Bob Sacamano, any Seinfeld fans out there, who was mentioned a lot by Kramer, but was never seen on screen. So either she's going to be a Bob Sacamano or she's going to be revealed finally. And I definitely think about all the other characters that may be revealed to us this season as well. So, that kind of a side note here. But anyway, following this, is then revealed to us that the Kettlemans have decided to take Saul Goodman up on their offer and to be their attorney, clearly because all of the reputable lawyers they met with, clearly wanted nothing to do with them, knowing that their case was absolutely, unfounded and ridiculous and would just be, a horrible on, these reputable law firms' reputations. So they weren't going to take, these clients, their client's case for sure. So it's then revealed to us that they decide to go with Saul Goodman. Again, an interesting piece of foreshadowing here where Kim asks if Saul's going to go with the carrot or the stick. And again, it's kind of crazy to think in hindsight how Saul is the sort of, the sort of gentle one, for lack of a better term, and Kim's the sort of good cop, bad cop almost here. And Kim's the sort of, ruthless one who's really just, again, it's revealed to us in the final scene of this episode how she's totally fine with tearing down the Kettleman. She does not care whatsoever. She does not have, there's no empathy for these people at all. She does not view them as good people, at all. Totally fine with using them as collateral damage. If she's fine with taking down Howard, she's definitely fine with taking down the Kettlemans here. But again, getting ahead of myself here in the final scene of this episode, asking if they're going to go with the carrot or stick. But then following this, the next scene in this episode then reveals the payoff of Mike telling Gus that, they clearly want Varga alive here, and that, again, if Lalo Salamanca was going to go after you already, he would have been here by now, but they clearly want Nacho alive because they need proof before they kill him. Again, talking about it being in the best interest of, the Salamancas and the cartel. Again, I talked about this, I believe, in the very beginning of this review about how it's pretty amazing to just, to see Mike sort of disagree with Gus Fring. Again, we really never saw this disagreement in the plot of Breaking Bad, I really feel like Mike was just a loyal soldier to Gus Fring. But like I talked about earlier, he's really the only character I feel who could, who has the sort of almost respect and maybe even gumption a little bit to talk to Gus in this manner. So again, pretty interesting sort of dynamic here for sure. And again, quite the scene. Again, it really made me sort of at the edge of my seat, what's going to happen here where Gus said to Mike to bring Nacho's father here as part of, is his next move in this game against the Salamancas. And Mike essentially said, no, you're not going to do that. He disobeyed an order for Gus Fring. And following this, we see, Tyrus put a gun to Mike's head, essentially saying, if you don't do as you're told, you will be shot. So again, a pretty interesting scene here where we really see this sort of disagreement with Mike. And you just wonder what Mike, again, it's really interesting to see, because irrespective of all these disagreements that are ensuing right now and that may continue to ensue over the season, we know that Mike is a loyal, respected employee of Gus Fring and will be with him until the end of for Gus Fring. He's going to still be his sort of right hand man, and he almost builds himself up in that way. Where he really is his sort of, is consigliere the right word, or right hand man? He's really someone who Gus Fring can confide in for true advice, and he really listens to Mike. Mike is the one person he really, I feel, listens to and respects and can maybe disagree with. I mean, he definitely respects other characters too, like Victor, whose throat gets slashed in hindsight when he sort of messes up, and Tyrus as well. But there's definitely a different tier of respect for Mike Ehrmantraut for sure, which is really sort of displayed to us in the backstory here of Better Call Saul. And again, it's so true what Peter Gould said about how after watching season 6 of Breaking Bad, you're going to see after watching season 6 of Better Call Saul, you're going to see Breaking Bad in an entirely different light. And I'm already beginning to see it in a completely different light, even after the first 2 episodes, let alone with 11 more. So it's just unbelievable to see. But anyway, getting back into the plot here. So basically, following Mike saying, whatever happens next is not going to go down the way you think it is, basically after him, disobeying this order and then getting the phone call from, Nacho Varga. It's then revealed to us that, Nacho wants to talk to Gus Fring. Sorry, I'm losing my notes here, all messed up. Sorry, I apologize. And basically said it's up to Gus whether or not that Nacho talks to him, sort of saying, like Tyrus saying, I've been calling him for days, he hasn't responded, but not Mike, of course, saying he wants to talk to me because Nacho knows that Mike is his only sliver of hope of survival. I think I was even realizing here that I think Gus is okay with Nacho being dead, because then there's no proof. If Nacho's dead, then he's basically, Nacho is the only link back to, this hit on Lalo for that Gus Fring ordered. I believe that's correct. I think that's correct. I'm not really sure, but that's just me speculating here, without the full story for sure. So I think Gus wants him dead, but Mike Nacho knows that Mike is his one, olive branch potentially for salvation, for lack of a better reference. So very interesting to see for sure, because he knows that Mike has, at least some empathy for him, unlike Gus Fring and the rest of his crew. So following this, we then pick up the very last scene. Again, I don't know if this is technically a different act. It's probably supposed to be the same act, but there's a lot of commercial breaks here based on the nature of television. So anyway, this then picks up back with the Kettlemans back at their business, at this sort of, tax business. Again, I'm not sure. I'm not an accountant. I don't even know exactly what they're doing here. But of course, it should be noted, I forgot to mention that Kim also said that she was going to go to this meeting with Saul as well. In hindsight, she was going to be the stick, unlike the carrot of Saul, just sort of trying to bribe them to sort of go about, doing their plan. So anyway, here, so following Saul basically trying to bribe the Kettlemans here, and then basically saying, no, you set us up. There never was any opportunity here for us to, exonerate Craig or to get any sort of monetary civil settlements. Then, following saying they wanted nothing to do with Saul, not wanting their bribe. This is then followed by Kim saying, all right, enough carrot, time for the stick. And then she then goes, I believe, I was wondering if this was maybe a scam, but I definitely think she did call someone within the IRS. I believe this was actually true. She was sort of reporting that the Kettlemans were doing some sort of fraud. Again, I'm no accounting expert here, but apparently this is some sort of very common sort of tax fraud that people can do. And apparently it's been done many times before. Definitely illegal. It's a felony. It can't be done. Kim basically saying, if you don't do exactly what we say, you'll be fine. You're a first-time offender. This is white-collar crime. You're just going to go away for a couple, 24 months, maybe a couple of years. But Craig Kettleman being a repeat offender, 2-time convicted felon, they're going to throw the book at you. It's not going to be good. Lost anything. You don't know what losing everything is. And again, it's unreal to see Kim Wexler in this way. Again, I talked about this in a lot of my videos leading up to this. I mean, like, you almost knew that, they weren't going to paint Kim Wexler as this sort of, two-dimensional character. She was just this sort of, incredibly complex character. And it's just unbelievable to see she's the one taking the lead here in respect to sort of, doing this plan and really doing all of the sort of dirty work and really being sort of, immoral, and she's definitely engaging in blackmail here for sure. I'm definitely thinking this is definitely not ethical. This is definitely not okay and in accordance with the New Mexico Bar Association, as she would complain that Saul was breaking those rules in season 2 of Better Call Saul when he got hired at Davis and Maine. So it's pretty ironic here, in my opinion, to see Kim Wexler, sort of just do a complete 180 here. And again, I've speculated on what the cause of this sort of 180 could be, but again, we don't know at this point in time. It's definitely just up to the speculation of the audience for sure. We don't know what's going on in Kim Wexler's mind. I mean, maybe it will be revealed to us at the end of the series, but again, we just don't know. And so, yeah, before I sort of talk more about just that sort of the big picture thing, is then following this scene, we then see the two of them driving away, following them. It's clearly displayed to us that the Kettlemans have no choice but to go along with this plan, because if not, they're going to, their lives will be, even more screwed because they're committing fraud again. So, but of course, then at the very end of the scene, again, someone correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe, is that Mike Ehrmantraut's car that followed them at the very end of this episode before the scene ended? Was a car definitely followed them, and we've definitely seen that sort of dialogue teased to us in trailers and teaser in the trailer for season 6 of Better Call Saul, where Kim said, "Do you ever feel like you're being followed?" And there's definitely someone following them at the very end of this episode. Someone drove behind them for sure. I think that was Mike. Yeah, as Dottie, I think that was Mike as well. It definitely looked like Mike's car. Mike is busy with Nacho. Yeah, and then no, I believe someone from Howard and Cliff. Yeah, again, we don't know. Again, I would have to go back and look again. Like I said, there's a couple details that I definitely missed here. After only watching this episode one time, I usually am a multi-time watcher for sure. I wasn't. I have to go back and look at if Gus received a phone call from someone, or if he called someone once Tyrus gave him the Federale information, and also what was that car. Again, I can try to find a picture of it here to see, what it was. I can't tell here if it was Mike's car or not. Trying to see here. Sorry for the break here. Trying to see if that was Mike. Again, yeah, I don't know if that was Mike's car. At this angle, it's hard to tell. Hard to tell, but someone is following them. Is that Mike's car? Again, I don't know. I'm looking at it right now. It's too hard to tell. I have to take a look. It's kind of a grainy photo, so I'm not sure. Maybe it is. I don't know. So yeah, that pretty much sums up the plot of the first 2 episodes here. Again, so many mysteries, so much going on here. Again, the storyline of Kim Wexler just absolutely fascinates me. In the final 11 episodes of this series. Again, the big picture thing is that irrespective of whatever happens, we know that Kim is nowhere to be found on screen in the plot of Breaking Bad. So I just wonder what is going to happen to Kim Wexler. That's the big question. What is the reason why she's nowhere to be found, and that we have this, completely different Saul Goodman, working with Walter White? I mean, it's mind-boggling how different of a character he is. I mean, he's still driving a brown Ford Taurus in the 2nd episode of the final season of Better Call Saul. He's so meek and just sort of reserved compared to this sort of outgoing, gregarious, confident Saul Goodman who we saw interact with Walter White and, Skyler and Jesse Pinkman and Mike Ehrmantraut. It's almost as if this is just a persona. And again, I've seen the theories about Kim being a silent partner, about that being technically possible, but I just don't know, man. I mean, with Ray Seahorn saying that this season, her one word to describe it was devastating. Like, Kim being a silent partner seems like a pretty damn happy ending to me. That seems like a pretty happy ending for these 2 characters, and I don't know. I just don't see it. I mean, it's weird. Like, you wonder. I mean, like, they're clearly, at least Saul clearly really cared about Kim Wexler at the end of season 5 of Better Call Saul. But you wonder if the sort of love phase or something. Again, I don't know. I'm speculating here. Does the love fade, or is there something that happens? Maybe it's almost Saul sort of losing interest in Kim, kind of being turned off by Kim. Again, I don't even know if that makes sense based on where his character goes. But again, I'm just totally speculating here immediately after watching this episode. I'm definitely going to have to take some time to, reflect and sort of think about these first couple episodes in more detail. And I'm definitely planning on making some more in-depth videos this week, leading up to the 3rd episode of season 6 of Better Call Saul on Monday. So yeah, it was pretty awesome, man. These episodes definitely had me on the edge of my seat, for sure. So yeah, can't wait to see what happens. It's gonna be great. And also, I definitely noticed on the TV version they teased on this season of Better Call Saul as opposed to on the next episode of Better Call Saul. So I'll definitely look to see if they released a preview for episode 3 specifically instead of for the whole season. So definitely curious to see what happens there. So yeah, definitely some debate here about whether it was Mike's car or whether it wasn't. Again, the photo I saw was pretty grainy. I couldn't really tell. Wasn't really sure in the chat. So I feel like Lalo could kill Kim. I guess it's possible. I mean, I definitely talked about that too in my review of the fifth episode, of the final episode of season 5 of Better Call Saul yesterday, about how Vince Gilligan talked about how during the finale of of Breaking Bad, about how Lydia was poisoned and all the other characters in Jack Walker's circle were shot or strangled. He kind of was jokingly saying, it was that sexist of me to have, Lydia, die in this more like less dramatic way. So I don't know. I feel like if Lalo was to kill Kim, it would be in the sort of, getting shot, but I don't know. Maybe that's not in the vision of at least Vince Gilligan. I don't know. Maybe he's come around, but it's definitely an interesting point. Definitely wonder what's going to happen with Kim and Lalo. Definitely going to see. I'm definitely wondered about that too. About how, again, I'm kind of quoting Vince Gilligan here, but he talked about after the episode entitled "Bagman" about how you rarely see Kim Wexler make a very bad decision in the plot of Better Call Saul, and that decision of her going to MDC to visit Lalo, that just seemed like a really bad decision. But as of this moment, as of even the conclusion of the first 2 episodes of season 6 of Better Call Saul, I really feel like Kim has not really seen any negative ramifications of that. Not really. She really has gotten away scot-free with that. I mean, with that, besides Lalo knowing that she exists, I mean, that's scene of her basically telling Lalo off in Bad Choice Road, it kind of made her seem like a badass. So I haven't really seen those negative consequences for Kim Wexler yet, but who knows? Maybe they're still to come. As we'll see. Definitely, the twists and turns of this season are going to be pretty damn dramatic, in my opinion. So I think Kim goes to prison. It's possible. That's definitely possible too. I don't know. I'm not sure what the iteration of that would be, but and how she would get caught up in it. But of course, Saul would be totally fine to be totally unincriminated and just able to practice the law and not be disbarred and be not a suspect when dealing with Walter White as a silent partner. So yeah, pretty interesting. Just going through the chat here a little bit. So again, yeah, definitely some debate on whose car that was. Again, I don't know. I guess it'll definitely be revealed to us at some point. Kim's transformation is phenomenal. I agree. Definitely did not see it coming. In hindsight, maybe I should have seen it coming. They weren't gonna, they were as this sort of two-dimensional sort of damsel in distress. But I agree completely, Scott. The transformation has been phenomenal. Saul's bad personality definitely infected her personality. Yeah, yeah, Wesley, I agree. Again, it's something I've thought about as well. It kind of reminds me a little bit. I talked about this in my reviews yesterday for the final episodes of season 5. Again, it's not a totally apt comparison, but it reminds me a little bit about how Jesse Pinkman sort of corrupted Jane, causing her to relapse on her sobriety. Even Saul saying as much to Kim, like, am I bad for you? Like, if you didn't know me, then all this between us and Lala would have never happened. So, definitely some corruption there. And I definitely see, Saul sort of, kind of, having some having some emotions in respect to, where Kim's character is going for sure, sort of feeling bad about maybe morally corrupting her. At least that's his perspective. We don't know what's going on in Kim's mind. Maybe Kim is not this sort of, character who wants this sympathy, or she says, she said, like, you don't save me, I save me, and being very affronted when Howard tried to white knight her. So maybe she's just not that type of character. So yes, thank you, Thomas, I appreciate it. And yes, the plan is to go live after every single episode. This one was a little bit different because there were 2. I apologize for having to end the stream. It is what it is, but there, for better or for worse, there's only 1 episode remaining. 1 per week for the final 11. So with the midseason break, so of course, yeah, that's the plan, to go live after every single episode. So Zaviro and Yeho definitely coming back. Yeah, that'll be interesting for sure. I definitely don't think. I mean, that was definitely the reveal of that in the cold opening scene of that episode was definitely pretty much to display without a doubt that was Saul Goodman's house. And as I talked about in my first episode, that house was pretty amazing. that Venetian style house was just beyond anything I could have conceived of. The house that Saul Goodman lived in. That was pretty amazing for sure. He definitely embraced that Scarface vibe, as someone said in the chat. Again, it was pretty awesome. Yeah, just reading the chat here. What happened in Santiago, Chile? Yeah, that's another interesting point. I mean, you want I mean, at this pace, you wonder. I mean, there's so much backstory here. I want to make an entire video about it, but there's so many sort of open-ended aspects to Gus Fring's persona. I really don't feel like it'd be impossible to tie up all of those. I mean, there's so much here. That's an entire video. I can't go down that rabbit hole, but I've definitely talked about how I definitely read rumblings online about how there could be a sort of Gus Fring prequel to his life in Chile. Again, maybe this is just a total rampant rumor, but I definitely think it would be possible. And I talked about this as well. If that does happen, we would need to have, at least in my opinion, Giancarlo Esposito play himself. And of course, we would need some sort of anti-aging Irishman technology to make it work. But I think it could work. I think there could be potential there for sure. I mean, again, Vince Gilligan even talked about how he's in no rush to do another spin-off because these are pretty brutal. I imagine he doesn't want to make these sort of very simple. I mean, I just think about how much nuance and complexity and depth there is in Better Call Saul as a series. So, I mean, if they do another spinoff, they're gonna want it to exceed or pass the previous one of this spinoff from Breaking Bad. So, yeah, I don't think it will come anytime soon, but it is theoretically possible. So, yeah, I think a lot about Gus Fring will just be left open ended. Again, I don't know if we're gonna get again. There's so much about Breaking Bad that's just open ended. We don't know how Walter White poisoned Brock. I mean, it's just completely there's a lot of gaps in that storyline. So it's just up to the interpretation of how that happened. Maybe I've heard maybe they'll display to us this season as possible. Maybe not. I mean, can't wait to see. It is crazy to think too. We've already had 2 episodes and no Gene Takovic. That's another crazy thing. You wonder when we're going to get Gene. I wonder if we're not going to get Gene till the first episode of the second half of season 6 of Better Call Saul. Part of me is starting to think that now, but who knows? I could be wrong. Maybe we'll get him in the first episode of season 3. Episode 3, I doubt it, but no Gene Takovic either. So I wonder if Kim uses the bottle top to kill Lalo. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. That's funny though. That's true. Yeah, Matthew Sanchez. That's right. Yeah, there's that whole quite a ride. Thank you for reminding me. There's that whole quite a ride storyline that needs to happen as well. Again, I mean, only 11 episodes left. I mean, these first 2 were unbelievable. I mean, I really feel like we made quite a bit of progress here. I feel like I feel like we still got a long way to go, but like, even to have the sort of confrontation with the cousins and Nacho to happen already, I mean, I definitely feel like we needed that with the based on the pace of the series. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I do wonder that too. Relax and sleep. Like in the big picture, you wonder like what the very final scene is going to be. You wonder because there's basically 3 separate stories here. I mean, there's the Breaking Bad story, the Better Call Saul story, and the Omaha Gene story. So you really wonder what the very last scene of this series is going to be. So and it's crazy to think. I mean, this Gene story. There's so much setup. There's so much backstory, but we've only had 5 scenes in 5 seasons, and now in 52 episodes, we've only had 5 scenes of Gene Takovic. Yet there's this entire storyline that needs to be displayed to us. So it's pretty crazy to think just how much story still needs to be told. So Ryan, yeah, thinking time jump mid-season. Yeah, I definitely think so for sure. I mean, we're still 4 years away from the start of Breaking Bad, so I definitely think it could happen. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think I've talked about this. I think we've only gone about 2 years, a little bit more than 2 years, right around 2 years, and 5 seasons and 2 episodes, and we'd have to go about 4 years in 11 episodes to meet up with the timeline of Breaking Bad. So again, that's why they pay the writers the big bucks. I'm not going to doubt them. I'm sure it'll be great for sure. So whatever iteration the storyline takes. So how long is the midseason break? I believe 6 weeks. I believe the final episode of part 1 is in May and it picks up in July. I'm not exactly sure when, but yeah, it's about 6 months. So does anyone actually going back to this, the one thing I missed in this second episode, does anyone remember the phone call at the end of the scene where Tyrus shows Gus all of the stuff from the Federales? It's kind of driving me crazy. That's the one thing I missed. I forgot who he called. Did he call Mike? Or I don't remember. He was definitely part of the some part of the plot against Nacho. Sure, he definitely called someone about, it might have been Mike, about what to do. But I'm definitely, when the stream is over, I'm definitely gonna go back and have to rewatch that for sure. So, huh? The Nachos girls get their own sitcom. That's funny. Yeah. So yeah, and just going through the chat here. So yeah, that pretty much sums it up here. So I was confused on why Mike left revealing info. Yeah, again, that's another mystery, disillusioned Zoetrope. Yeah, that again, there's a lot of mysteries here. We don't know exactly what's going on for sure. We don't have the benefit of the lovely benefit of hindsight here when going over this story. So yeah, yeah. Speaking of Francesca, I wonder when we'll get to see Saul start, yeah, speaking in that manner to her. Yeah, it's again, like, so many aspects here. Yeah, definitely all the very lewd comments that he made to her. I mean, definitely different. And it's pretty amazing to think that, the entire time that Francesca works with Saul, there's that whole backstory where she worked in the law office with Kim Wexler and Jimmy McGill as well. So why didn't they show Lalo kill his body double? Again, I wasn't really sure about that. I can't imagine that. I thought about that as too. It's like he just killed him. Maybe. I mean, maybe we'll see that in the episode 3. Maybe he sort of tricked him or something. Maybe he sort of, maybe this is his friend or something, and like he just sort of totally undermined him, or even a relative. Again, I don't know what's going on here. Again, there's so many mysteries here. That's a really interesting point. Grim Linton, yeah, about the body double. We only saw him in one scene in the first 2 episodes, so definitely trying to figure out what's going on there. So, if there's anything learned from contemporary television, there are more questions than answers. That is absolutely true. Absolutely true. The mysteries just build on, build on each other without a doubt. So, do you think Gus? Yeah, I talked about that a little bit. Definitely, Gus is definitely a little bit here. It's definitely weird because watching Gus in Breaking Bad, he was always sort of, 10, 15 steps ahead. So I definitely think he's flustered here for sure. Someone else definitely pointed out and reminded me of the twitching of his fingers as well, and the sort of knocking over of the glass. I definitely feel like he's definitely, you know, he's definitely compromised here. He's not in complete control. So again, I've talked about Gus Fring's storyline as well, about how it's going to be really interesting to see based on what's displayed to us here. What it's gonna, how it's gonna change our perspective of Gus Fring and the plot of Breaking Bad. So wish Kubi would come Breaking Bad. You and me both, man. We're gonna see. I mean, he's got to appear. I mean, we got to see Patrick Kubi. I mean, come on. You know my opinions on that. I've made that abundantly clear. I think Jimmy bought the Statue of Liberty in the end. Yeah, for sure, definitely possible. Again, it's pretty amazing to think that Statue of Liberty, like, it came from the Kettlemans. I talked about that earlier in this review. So it just, whenever I watch Breaking Bad now, every single time I'm going to think about when I see that Statue of Liberty and those, outside shots of Saul Goodman's office. I'm automatically going to think about the Kettlemans. It just is unbelievable how our perspectives have completely changed in respect to Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So, with the benefit of having watched Better Call Saul, how Peter Gould said that it's going to completely change, how we view Breaking Bad. So yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. It's actually kind of late. I gotta do a lot of things tomorrow. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed doing this stream. I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, I apologize for having to end the stream midstream. It was kind of weird, this sort of 2 episode split. But yeah, again, really appreciate it. Definitely planning on putting out videos over the course of this week, more in-depth videos about these first 2 episodes. After having some more time to reflect and watch it. But yeah, like I said, really appreciate everyone watching. Really appreciate everyone who liked the stream and everyone who's commenting. It's great to do. I love doing these reviews, and it's pretty cool to do these live streams. Never done them before. So yeah, I'm gonna have to end it here. Really appreciate it. Like again, I'm kind of just repeating myself here, but yep, I'm gonna end it here. Can't wait to put out more videos over the course of this week, and really looking forward to reviewing season 3 of Better Call Saul next week and the first half of season 6. So until I post again, I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys around.